Did you know that Sanrio has over 450 different characters? And I bet you haven't even heard of some of the best ones. Some of the most popular ones are Hello Kitty and Cinnamoroll, and with the new popularity ranking, Pom Pom Purin is at number 1. But my personal favorites are the ones a little lower on the list. There's Hangyeoran at number 8, or my favorite name, Marshmallow Mitaina Fua Fua Nyanko, or this Dumbo Octopus Shinkazoku, all the way at 79. But there's one character on the list that's weirder than all of them. Let me show you. This is Kirimichan. She's a slice of salmon, and her goal is to be delicious. She even has a birthday, and while I'm calling her a she, I'm not really quite sure what its gender is. The Hello Kitty fandom wiki has her gender listed as Kirimi, but the Japan Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries actually appointed Kirimi as a Let's Eat Fish ambassador, and turned her and all of her friends into magical girls. Not to mention, Kirimi has a bunch of friends that, if you guessed, are all pieces of some sort of meat or side dish, like Shark Senpai, Loin-chan, Sawara-kun, or my personal favorite, Kamabokochan. She also has a pet dog radish named Takuwanwan. Kirimi is actually my brother's favorite Sanrio character, and while she's great and all, I couldn't find much merchandise of her, besides like one giant Kirimi plush, but I don't think I'll be getting that. So I wanted to make my own Kirimi keychain to give him. But in order to do this, I'll be using Needlefelt to make both her and her friend Kamaboko-chan. For those of you who don't know what needlefelting is, it's like a fiber craft where you basically just stab a piece of wool over and over. I really like to do this to make like keychains and things since it's really lightweight, but it actually takes a really long time, so I don't typically do it too often. But since it takes so long, I had to like cut out a lot of footage and speed up a lot of the video pieces. Like making Kirimi I think took like 4 hours, not including Kamaboko-chan. So this was definitely painful to edit, but it's worth it, hopefully. But yeah, the white piece is just going to be the base for it, since I'm going to cover it with the colored wool later to give Kirimi the salmon color, since it's normally cheaper to do it this way, since the colored one's more expensive. But since I'm making it a keychain, I'm actually sewing a piece of ribbon in so that I can hang it on things later. And this is something new that I tried, since before I would just put like a jump ring on it, but it would actually fall off. Because I made my brother a penguin one before, and it actually like came off of his backpack and he lost it. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen again. But this is like the general shape of Kirimi. It doesn't need to be perfect in this step, it's just to like have a core that you can add details to later. So this is where I begin to color Kirimi. And I actually didn't have the color that I really wanted, and I didn't check before I started making it, so I kind of had to use what I had, but it's close enough, I think. I was hoping for a more orange color instead of the pink, but that's okay. And then this is the step that you want to actually make the outside smooth, so you want to make sure that you poke it a lot. And this is where you actually start to see like the tiny holes in the felt, and it's actually a good sign because that means it's getting like harder and more flat. And so I'm using a thin layer of the wool and actually kind of like mixing it up so that all the fibers are in different directions. And I find that that helps it felt up easier and quicker. And so I'm covering the whole thing except for the top part because that's where I'm going to put the skin later. So I'm just saving that so that I can put gray on it. But yeah, this step, I feel like it takes longer than the core piece for me since I really want it to like not have that many loose fibers. And I want it to have like a more finished look. And you also want to be really careful that you don't poke yourself. I should probably say that I don't in this video, but if you're like a beginner, I would recommend taking it slower. And then this is where I start to make the top skin layer for Kirimi. And I actually chose the wrong color in the beginning and I ended up redoing it. So yeah, this is not the color I wanted. I would recommend doing a darker one since this one felt a little too close to the shade of the salmon flesh. But I'm just slowly felting around the little ribbon piece to make sure that it doesn't like get tangled with it or that I make holes in it. But I actually spent a while on this part too because I wanted the skin to like stick out a little bit and be puffier. But yeah, I think this is the right color that I wanted. like a little darker, and then I just keep adding layers and more layers of this color so that it stands out a little bit more. And you also want to be careful that you don't leave any of the white showing, so you can go back and use the salmon color to like go in between if there's any white fibers, but I just like using the single needle to make sure that the line looks really neat. And this is me testing the ribbon keychain and making sure that's in place because I really didn't want it to fall off. But I think it works pretty well, so I'll probably be using this later on. And then now that I have the head done for Kirimi, this is where I start to make the body. And so once you have it all nice and smooth and that it's like the correct shape and thickness that you want, you can start to like choose the color for the body. And I just ended up using like a really light piece of wool. This is what I typically use for like skin colors, so I thought it would go pretty well with Kirimi. And I would be more careful with working with smaller pieces. Like the salmon fillet was a lot bigger, so I didn't have to really worry about poking myself, but with smaller pieces like this, I would be more careful since it's like your fingers are closer to the needle. And when I was younger, I actually used to use like a pair of tongs to help me needle felt because I was really scared of poking myself. But after enough practice, you kind of learn to just like, you know where you're poking and you get to avoid stabbing yourself, which is good. But it took me a while to get to that stage. But I'm just like forming the legs out of one piece. I didn't attach them separately because I was lazy, but it turned out like pretty good, so I'm not upset. But I ended up making separate pieces to attach the arms. And yeah, this is me putting them on. And I like to leave the top part where I'm going to attach the body to the head like fluffy so that I can actually poke the fibers in. And I find that it like makes it easier to attach, and it gives it like a cleaner finish instead of adding more wool on top of it. But this is, I guess it's kind of optional. Some people I've seen like to like sew it on or just like glue it. But I wouldn't recommend gluing it because then it just doesn't look as like naturally finished. But yeah, I like to put the body next to the head so that I know it's the right size and that I can change it later. But honestly, if I make it like too big or too small, I'm kind of lazy and I just leave it. But don't be like me and make sure that you get the right size. Yeah, I'm just attaching it by like poking the loose fibers into the main part, and then I like to tug on it like every once in a while to make sure that it is like reasonably stuck on. And that's with the finished body. I'm just squeezing it a little bit because I think I made the legs a little bit too big. But once you're happy with that size, then you're done. And then this is where I start to make the little like fat marbling in the salmon piece. But I actually kind of regret this step because I didn't spend that much time on it and I got lazy because I was really annoyed of how like tedious it was. So it kind of ended up turning out not that great. And I also ended up doing one side because I really didn't want to have to do it again. And so if I were to redo it in the future, I think I would use like a thicker piece of wool and spend more time on it and do both sides. But I guess I wasn't feeling it that day. So this is what I ended up with. And I just used a pair of scissors to like cut off all the loose ends. Or you could just felt them in. And then this is where I'm making the eyes. So I just like take a small piece. I think it's like a dark brown wool, not a black one, but it's up to you. And I just roll like little small black dots for the eyes. And I actually redid them. This is me pulling them out because I made them a little bit too big. And yeah, you can see my fake nails. They hurt a lot, but I needed good nails for the video. But yeah, I changed them to a smaller eye size because I thought it looked better, and I'm actually pretty happy with the new one. So if you ever like make a mistake with the details, you can try to just rip it out and hope that it goes well. And then I also switched back to the single needle to do the smaller details to make sure that like all the tiny wisps of wool are like tucked in. And that's the face done. Yeah, don't look at the back, I didn't do the marbling, but that's okay. And now that Kirimi's almost done, this is where I just add like the final keychain part. And I got this from like another kit, like a Needlefelting kit, but I guess I didn't use the ball chain in it, so I'm using it here. And then I just loop it through the ribbon, and I'm actually really happy with the new ribbon technique that I tried because I feel like it's gonna stay pretty well. and not just like fall off. But yeah, this is it. I think I made it a little too big. Like, if I were to have that on my bag, I feel like it'd be a little bit annoying because of how big it is. But I feel like it's a cute size. Like, maybe just a display or something. And now I'm moving on to Kamabokochan. She was actually a lot easier just because her entire shape is like a half semicircle. So all I had to do was like do that, like a cake roll shape. And then I followed basically the same steps. Like sewing in the piece of ribbon and the coloring on the outside is kind of like the skin on Kirimi. And I actually really like Kamabokochan. I don't know why. I think it's because when I was younger, my mom would always pack me udon for lunch, and she would put these, the same fish cakes in it, and I always thought they were so cute because they're like pink. But then I found out that like, I think some brands of pink food use like beetles to dye it or something, and I got a little freaked out. But I still think it's cute, and I think not all the companies do that. So hopefully I'm not eating beetles. But I guess it doesn't really matter. But I'm using the light pink color to go around the top again. And you can see in the background, I have my Kurapika figure that I used to hold my needles. And it was originally a stamp holder, I think. But I really wanted it just because I like having my needles being held somewhere and not on the table, because they kind of like move around a lot and I don't want to lose them since that's kind of dangerous to lose like really sharp needles. So I like having them like envision and open so that I can always switch between the two. And these needles are special because they have like hooks on them, and how it works is that the hooks rip up the wool fibers, which condense them and allow the wool to get in this like stage. And so there's one, like the blue one is actually like, I think a larger gauge or something. I forgot, larger or smaller. But it's more rough compared to the green tipped one. That's like a smaller hook size or something. So I like to use the blue one to make the initial just like base, and then the green one to do the finer details. And then I'm using the same color as the body as the other Kirimi, and then attaching it on. And I probably should have made the body a little smaller since it's like the head is smaller, but I think I made it the same size as Kirimi, so it looks a little funny. It kind of looks like Patrick Starfish, but I can live with that. And then I'm making the happy face for Kamabokochan, because that was what I saw in most of the photos. And it came out a little messy just because I was lazy, and I made the eyes a little too big again. But she's still cute. She's still Kamabokochan. So yeah. And this is the final product of Kirimichan and Kamabokochan. I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. Like, I feel like the proportions on Kirimi are really good. And like, I guess if you don't know Kirimi, it looks really weird, but if you do know Kirimi, I think you could recognize it. And then I'm also glad I made Kamabokochan, because I feel like they have to go together. Like, I had to make one of Kirimi's friends, because she has so many, and it's like, I don't know, I would be sad if she didn't have any friends. So they go together now, and I don't know what I'm doing. I guess I like making them walk. It's like the, you know the Littlest Pet Shop videos where they have them like walk across a desk and it makes that like ASMR noise. I like doing that, but I don't think it's quite the same. But yeah. So yeah, that's the end of this video. And if you actually watched all the way to the end, then thank you so much, because that actually means a lot. Like, this is kind of my first, well, this is my first video, I guess. Like, I've made a few just like practice ones in the past, but I've never really spent this long making like one finalized product. So it's pretty cool that if you did watch it to the end, hopefully you enjoyed it. But I'd also like to thank a few of my friends for helping me. My friends Jaden and Alex helped me with some of the editing things and like taught me like keyframes and all that kind of stuff. I had no clue what they were before that, so that was very helpful. And my friend Hanning actually made the Cat Be Cat animation right after the outro with like the logo. Like, I designed it, but she animated it, and that was really cool. And so I used that. And yeah, I just have a speed paint of the thumbnail here because I didn't know what to put. So you can watch that. But yeah, Cream was really fun to make, and hopefully I can make more things like this in the future, because it was really fun like making the whole video and stuff. So if you'd like to see more of that, feel free to click all the buttons, follow me. Yeah, you don't have to. yeah, I don't know what else to say. What else am I supposed to say? Thanks for watching. Hopefully, maybe I'll see you later. Is that creepy? That might be creepy. Okay. Fun fact about me is that I play Valorant. And you can see this awesome clip of me hitting the most awesome flick ever. Yeah, okay. Bye-bye.